Hello, everybody. Welcome back to New Gen Podcast, where we highlight journeys of soccer players in the community. Today, we got a special guest with a very unique story. He went from playing in Morocco to U23 in Pachuca. His name is Esteban Escobedo, a.k.a. Junior. How you doing, Junior?
Good, man. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem, bro. I'm really excited for you to be on here, honestly. I've been wanting to get you on here for a long time because you're somebody that I got to see growing up playing. You play with my brother, and I really would like for you to share your story with everyone. So first off, let's start with you growing up in Las Vegas. Tell us about your early days, right, and how you got started.
Yeah, actually, my dad, he started taking me to training when I was about like 6 or 7 years old, and pretty much that's where I started. I started off in some little rec league, and it started off as a hobby. But then as years went by, I started getting a love for the sport, and obviously it grew into what it is today. But yeah, it's a long process. It was a long process, but honestly, I've enjoyed every second of it.
Okay, and just tell us a little bit about like your background, your family, and stuff like that. For example, like I know your dad, I know your uncle, I know legends in the Vegas community as well, right? So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, my dad was never really a soccer player. He was more of a baseball player. But my uncle here in Vegas, he's pretty well known. He played here a lot of years. Obviously Sunday League, but I mean he was a really good player. When he was young, he played with Atlas in the youth academy. But obviously, because of circumstances of not having money, nobody really there to support him. He couldn't really stay. But those two have been the people that have, you could say, impulsed me the most into being a soccer player.
Okay, and tell us about like clubs you played growing up with here in Vegas.
I started off like actual clubs. My
Or even
first my
independent
first
teams.
club my first club was New Sport.
Okay.
New Sport turned into Heat. I played for them for 2 years, and then after that, I joined. First, they were called Cordica, and they turned into Pros. Well, Pros is today.
Okay.
Yeah, and then after that is when I joined Players. I joined Players when I was 14. When I was 14, I stayed with them until about 18 years old. So I played with them for 4 years, and then after that is when I started traveling to Mexico and after that Morocco and back to Mexico. Yeah.
So were there any coaches that had a real big impact on your development?
Yeah, yeah, I've had a lot of coaches. Well, the person that's had the most impact on me was probably Sharif. Sharif was, and has been still to this day, I still train with him, has been the person that's trained me the most. I've learned the most with him on and outside of the field. Apart from that, in players, my coach was Paul. I don't know if you met him, Paul Barron. He played in England. He played with Arsenal. He was a goalkeeper coach in Newcastle. He's been someone that has taught me a lot too about soccer.
He played with Mikey, or you played with Mikey in that team too, or no? Or Mikey was in a different one?
Yeah, actually, yeah,
Okay.
I played with Mikey in that team too. Yeah, he played with us. This was back in like 2017, 2016, around that time. Yeah, those two have probably been the most influential coaches that I've had before turning pro.
And I know obviously we had Sharif in here earlier, and I know him, great guy. Let's talk about that real quick. I want to tell a quick story about how because of you, right, is the reason why I got to be with players, and it's through Sharif. So it's funny how all that happens, right? So man, Sharif is such a great guy and such a great influence. And for example, for me, like that's the role model that I have, right, as a coach, because I see the impact that he's had on players such as yourself and other players, and like you said, even off the field, the stuff he teaches you off the field and about life and stuff like that. So no, that's really good. So growing up in Vegas, what challenges did you face, right, playing soccer?
It's in that time when I was younger, there wasn't that much soccer here. There wasn't a professional team. There wasn't any academies. It's hard to get looked at. It was really hard to get looked at. If you wanted someone to scout you, you would have to either travel to California, travel to a different state, even travel to Mexico. And at a young age, it's kind of difficult to do that because if you don't have any contacts, it's almost impossible. And here in Vegas, I mean, there was a lot of good players, a lot of good players, and in my opinion, most of them didn't make it because there was nobody to see them. So, and there's been a handful of us that have actually made it pro, have actually like played. A lot of it is luck because circumstances, like with you and when you took me to go train with legends with Mago, and I ended up getting scouted there with him. But there's been a lot of lost talent because of that of opportunities here
Right.
in
There's not
Vegas.
many resources here.
There's not
Huh?
many resources here in Vegas. No.
And obviously, you play Sunday League right in the Mayor, and you've seen probably a lot of really good players, right, that are maybe even 10 years older than you now. Like you probably thought, like, hey, that kid probably would have made, or that guy would have probably made a pro as a kid if he had, the chance or the opportunity. But like how you said, it all comes down to just timing, right? That was really just timing for you. Like, for example, that opportunity and timing for me coaching, right? Going to that training with you and then seeing Sharif and then him helping me get a job at Players. So it's crazy how everything works, huh?
Yeah, it's all timing. It's all timing. And like you said, I've seen a lot of players here in Vegas. And honestly, there's been a lot that in my opinion have been better than me. I think what I think I stood out on the most was my work ethic. I mean, you've known me for a lot of years. I pride myself in someone that trains every day. I don't miss a day.
You have like 3 training sessions a day,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I train.
Morning, afternoon, and then in game at night.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I always train at least 2, 3 times a day, and I think it's the most important thing. Obviously, talent counts, uh, but the most important is probably discipline and work ethic.
Then you're definitely the role model for that, and I use you as an example, right? To some of my players, like you've got to work because you work so hard, and then you started seeing it pay off. You were ready for these opportunities. And a lot of times that's what happens too. I feel they get the opportunities, but they're not necessarily ready, right? They didn't really prepare themselves to exactly what it is because you're someone that got to play. We'll talk about that later, but you got to play, U23 is a professional, and obviously you said that's a huge jump. But before we get there, let's talk about Morocco and your Raja experience. How did you get the opportunity to go there?
Sharif took me there. Yeah. I trained with Sharif for about 8 months before I left. I was there for a year. I stayed in Morocco for a year. I was playing with Raja. I was with the U23s. I trained with the first team, but played with the U23s.
What was the time frame? When was this around?
2019, and then I had to come back because of COVID. COVID happened in 2020, and then because of that, I was forced to come back, and I stayed here in 2020. I stayed here for a year, and then after that, in 2021, was when I signed with Pachuca. But in Morocco, it's different, man.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So obviously making the jump from being here, right, club, to going to Morocco. What was the culture like?
Yeah, it was. I was playing here Sunday League. Okay. I was playing Sunday League. I wasn't even playing club no more. I was playing Sunday League, and no, it's different.
So you were 19, right? Obviously,
I was 19. Okay. Yeah, I was 19, and the level is just different. It's a huge jump. Technically, they're all really good.
Did you get adjusted to it?
Yeah, it took me time. It took me about a month to get adjusted to the speed, to the rhythm of the game. What they have is their passion, and I think soccer in Morocco is really underrated. People don't really hear about it, but if you see in Europe there's hundreds and hundreds of guys playing in the top teams, Moroccans, and I've had a couple of teammates ex-teammates that I played with that are playing in Europe. Some play with the Moroccan national team, and they're just really good, man. Yeah, it's a lot of passion, a lot of discipline. What they have over there is they eat, sleep, and breathe soccer.
Like what Sharif says, right?
Yeah, like exactly what Sharif says. Yeah.
So that man really is Morocco, huh? Like his whole football, it's crazy. And how long were you there for?
For about a year.
You were there for a year?
Almost a year. Yeah.
And what did you learn from your time out there?
I think what I learned the most was probably just how they pride themselves in being soccer players. Like the discipline they have, how they take care of their body, the effort they put in day to day to try to become a better player, and just the passion they have. The passion during training sessions, it's most of our injuries would come during training sessions from how intense it was, because over there they don't want to lose. It's a 5-a-side, they're going in with 110% because obviously they want to win their spot. And I feel like that's what a lot of people are missing over here, is where in training sessions, they think it's all about the game, but you win your spot and you play the way you play because you train so hard. So that's what I learned the most over there. That's probably like the most important thing that they taught me in Morocco.
So you would say like the standard that they hold themselves to is just on another level than compared to here.
Yeah, definitely.
And obviously you had to come back, right? Let's talk about in between that. When you came back from Morocco, how were you feeling?
Yeah, when I came back, I felt really good at the beginning because I saw the level and I knew I could compete. But then a year passed where because of COVID, I couldn't play. I couldn't really do anything. And there was a point where before signing with Pachuca, before you took me to go train with Mago and like started like that process, I was thinking about just hanging up the boots, studying, getting a degree, a job, and just like quit football. But then that opportunity came up where you sent me with Legends to go train with Legends, go train with Mago Jose Rivera, and he promised me an opportunity to go on in the summer to go try out with the team. I ended up going to Pachuca. It took me a week before they signed me, and yeah, I haven't looked back since.
And who helped you facilitate that move? Like, who was intermediating that Pachuca?
It was Jose Rivera Mago. He was a big part of it. He was like the most important part of it. There was also Beto Schultz.
Mm.
He also helped out. He was my agent at the time, and it was both of them. Both of those guys were really important in that process.
Crazy how like it just always goes back to the timing part, right? Like just
Timing. It was just all
everything coming
timing.
together
And obviously, it was I was prepared. I trained like a man. I mean, I trained every day, and I was just waiting for that opportunity because, like I said, I was already thinking about just hanging up the boots, just playing Sunday league. But I said, I mean, if it's gonna be my last opportunity, might as well make it count.
that's you're literally the testament of not giving up, and being ready. And then when an opportunity knocks on your door, you answered it, and you got to.
Yeah, yeah.
So, how did you end up playing for obviously Pachuca? There had to be, you didn't just start there, right? How did you end up playing for the U23 Pachuca team? You got into the Pachuca team first, right? So how did that go?
Yeah, I went back then. There wasn't U23s. It was U20s.
Okay.
Yeah, it was U20s, and I went. My tryouts were straight with the U20s. I skipped like all the filters they usually have, and I went. It was me and some other like guy that went with me. We both went. We went to the U20s, and after a week they signed me, and then I had to wait about 4 or 5 weeks for my registration to come out, and my first game was actually it was Cruz Azul, U20s, and I started. I was a starter most of that season, and then after that played U20s another season, and then after a year of playing U20s, I did preseason with the first team. I would train with the first team. They would call me up once in a while, and then they ended up making what they call it, the Segunda Premier, Pachuca Premier, which was the second division in Mexico, where I ended up playing another year.
Let's talk about this for a second. You said preseason, right? Was that the time when when you played against Austin and your uncle went to see you, or was that another time?
Yeah, it was that
Was
time.
the same time?
Yeah, we did preseason in San Antonio for a week, and then we went to Austin to go play against Austin, and then I played 45 minutes there, and then after that we traveled to Atlanta, played against Atlanta at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That's for my uncle. My uncle went to go see me. We flew out to Miami, played there, and we were out there. We were here in the States for about almost a month, and that's when I headed back to. We headed back to start the season with Pachuca.
It's an incredible experience right there. I bet you it was so special to have your uncle there, because obviously he saw you since a little kid. Now, gets to see you on one of the biggest stages. Real quick, let's talk about what were the differences between, soccer here in the States and soccer in Mexico? Because obviously you're already here for a year, right? So what would you say was the difference between the soccers?
I think over there is just technically and tactically they probably work better. It's because technically they have really good players. Right now, probably, especially in Pachuca, their academy level is just crazy. If you see when they compete in international tournaments, probably U15, U17, and they play against Barca, Ajax, just top teams, and they usually win. And here in the States, what I see is very physical. It's a lot of discipline. They're very disciplined. A lot of players I feel like are workaholics. They train every day. They work every day. But I feel like Mexico, what they have above the States right now is probably just technically. Technically, they have better players.
Would you describe it as like maybe USA a little bit more robotic and then Mexico a little bit more free? Or
Probably, yeah. Yeah, you can probably say that. Yeah, I really haven't played here much. Usually my whole career has been in Mexico. But from what I've seen and the teams that I've played against, when I played against Austin, played against Atlanta, it was more robotic. They were really physical. They ran a lot. They were really physical. But when it came to having the ball, we would probably do better because of that reason.
Were there any players or coaches at Pachuca that really helped you out or really influenced you?
Yeah, my coach, probably my favorite coach was Andres Chitiba. He's an ex-player. He played with Pachuca, played in Colombia. He was probably my favorite coach I had. I had him for a year. We actually took that league back to back. He influenced me a lot. He helped me a lot. He helped me a lot with my positioning, technically trying to get better, the mental part too, because I feel like it's very important to have your player. I think it's the most important to have your player with confidence. Have a player with confidence. Try to get him mentally there, so when it comes to actually playing the game, they give like their 100% potential to be able to do what they have to do, and that's probably the most important. I trained a lot with Guillermo Armada. He's the first team coach right now in Pachuca, and he's just very intense. Just very intense.
So I don't mean to cut you off, but so he was coaching you at the U23s, and then
No, he was first team. He's always been first
okay.
team. Yeah, but they would call us up once in a while to go train with him,
Mhm.
and then I actually did my preseason with him. So yeah, he's just somebody that's really really intense. That's literally all I can describe. Just someone that makes you that he wants you to just run, be the most intense player, be more intense than your opponent, and obviously tactically he works really good, and those two have been probably the most in Pachuca, the most influential ones. And the one that signed me with the U20s was Claudio Aguilera. I was with him for a year. He's the one that actually saw me and gave me the opportunity to be a part of Pachuca. And they signed me at when I was 21 years old, so I was already old. I'm probably one of the oldest players they've signed for the U20s. But yeah, those guys have been really important.
That must say a lot if they're willing to sign you, right? Already being 21 and you're playing for U20s because it's they obviously already have their players in the academy, right? That they want to try and push up. So I mean that spoke for itself. Let's talk a little bit about what position you're. Well, I've always known you as like a center mid, right? Whether it's 6, 8, or even 10. What did they have you playing there?
Most of my time there, I've been a six.
You were
I was a
6.
six, yeah. My first year I was a six, but then after that I started playing more like as an eight role, more of an eight. But usually my whole career I've played as a six. But my preferred position is probably 8 or 10.
When you after Pachuca was done, where did you go to after? What was the next step?
They sent me out on loan in second division Expansión with Alebrijes. I was there for 6 months. I played a I played a good amount of games, and then after that is I came back to Vegas, and I stayed here for a couple months, and then I went to some other second division team in Mexico.
And how was that experience there?
Good, yeah, it was really good. Actually, my coach was Aquivaldo Mosquera, and he was my coach, and I was with him for 6 months, and he was a really good coach. He obviously a legend of the game, knows knows everything about everything in soccer, and somebody that off the field is also someone you can count on, someone you could approach and ask questions, ask for advice. Obviously, coaching wise, someone that's also very intense, also wants a lot of rhythm during the game.
You just came back from Finland, right? You were a couple days ago.
Yeah,
How was that experience out there? How was your trial?
good. Yeah, I went on trial for 2 weeks and it went really good. I did really good. Obviously, circumstances of budget or circumstances I couldn't stay, but the level was really good. A lot of really physical too. And so what surprised me was they were actually tactically really good. They everybody knew where they had to be during the game. Intensity wise was just I think everywhere nowadays it's very intense. Nowadays soccer, it's if you don't run you don't play.
Right.
So yeah, but it went really good.
And what team did you go out there with? What was the name of the
They were
team?
called Copeve. Yeah, Copeve. It was some second division tier team in Finland.
And were there any other players, foreign as well as yourself, or
Yeah, there's just a lot of players from there's players from Canada, players here from the States. There's a couple Portuguese. There's a lot of Portuguese players, and a lot of players from African descent.
oh, that's good to hear. I mean, that's probably nice meeting all these different cultures, right? People from different places, and seeing that you guys are both chasing, the same dream, the same journey. That must be an amazing experience. So let's talk about. We've highlighted a lot of stuff. Let's talk about some moments where you felt like you weren't at your best, or you're probably down because it's life, right? It's ups and downs. So let's talk about a moment where maybe you were down, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, probably when I was most down was probably my second season. My second season in Pachuca. I wasn't getting as much playing time. Actually, the first 3 games I didn't start. I came from my first season of playing most games and starting off that preseason did really good, but for some reason just didn't start. Didn't play that much that season, and obviously it hits you. It's a big toll on you mentally, most of all, because you're training and you train good, you do everything good, you eat, you sleep well, but you just don't play. What I think I did was just kept training. That's it. That's the only thing I think helped me out was just train, 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 and obviously take care of myself. What helped me out also was probably surrounding myself with good teammates that motivated me, that wanted me to do better, and that knew that obviously once I got the opportunity, I wasn't gonna let it go. And I actually ended up finishing that season a starter, and we didn't make it a playoffs. But I think what helped me overcome was just staying disciplined and my teammates.
Well, they were so basically your teammates were that rock, right?
Yeah,
Because obviously you have that communication with your parents back home and stuff, but like them not being there, it's just
it's
being
tough.
you.
Yeah,
And what's one of the biggest lessons you learned so far on your journey?
just enjoy it, man. You gotta enjoy it. Cause if you don't enjoy it, then why do it? I think what I used to I probably took for granted like those little moments. You just have to enjoy what you do. Enjoy every training session. Enjoy every game, and it's a lot of pressure. I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot of pressure. But you also have to embrace it and enjoy that. Enjoy the privilege of being able to have that pressure, wearing that team badge, having that last name on your back.
And it helps so much that you've had all these people, because I've known you since you were probably like what 11 years old. You and my brother played on the same team. I've noticed like all these people that positive people that you've had around you, and all these great teammates you had. I know that all that helps build. Because you ever heard that saying, takes a village to raise a kid.
Yeah,
That's where it comes from. And imagine, you're a pro, right? This is not just like a 5-6 year plan. Being pro is literally like a 20-year, plan where you cannot miss a day, right? So that's why like you were training 3 times a week, sorry, 3 times a day
yeah,
for a week straight, right? And honestly, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for for what's to come. I know you have a lot of big plans. You mind telling us about that?
yeah. Well, actually, right now, I'm trying to get my coaching license because obviously I want to do that. I don't see myself doing anything that's not in the soccer world after I retire. And I'm gonna be here for a couple months. And in the summer, I might go and see where I go play.
And let's. So you were obviously in Mexico for 2 years, you would say, or three,
Four
4 years.
4 years.
How
Yeah,
was it living out there?
I
What was
liked
it?
it.
You liked it?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. It's a different culture. Obviously, it's different, but I think just the people are really warm. Obviously, depends where you're at, but usually it's your teammates that you're always with. They become your second family, and people over there have always treated me really nice. And it's just the culture is just it's our culture, so I mean it's not hard to get used to.
So what would you tell a young player, right, that is maybe 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, whatever the case is? What advice would you give them, since you're someone who was in their shoes at one point, someone that wants to chase it? What would you say?
I think obviously the most important is enjoy it, but apart from that, just you have to have discipline. I think the most important thing is discipline, and it's probably cliche, but just hard work. And I think if you have the talent, and obviously if you love what you do, I mean, why not put in the work? But I think that's the most important thing. My advice to them would be have a lot of discipline, love what you do, and put in the work.
It's funny I say it's cliche, but it's so true.
Yeah,
It's so true. People are afraid of being corny or whatever the case is, but I mean, it couldn't be more true. You were literally saying no to parties, saying no to this, and that because you had to train at 7 in the morning with Sharif, right? And then you knew you had to maybe take a little nap in between because you trained again. Then you had a game at night. I mean, that right there shows you're a true testament of being disciplined will get you there. And then what's the opportunity knocks. Are you ready?
yeah, exactly.
I honestly, I could. It's been great having you, Junior. I can't be more grateful because you're one of the players, like I said, that I think you're a role model for these kids, right? I know growing up, there's always a lot of hype around certain players and this and that, but it's the hype dies down. The motivation, all that stuff dies down. The discipline is what is going to end up separating you. I'm excited to, keep looking forward on your journey. Keep seeing what you got going on. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're going to have Junior's information, everything handled below. Thank you for coming, Junior.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you, bro.
Thank you.